In this video, congressional redistricting and its effect on Maine, the United States, and national politics. This video is part of a series provided by ActivateMaine.com, a calendar of all the actions in Maine related to protests, rallies, community events, and training. Sign up for our newsletter and find your next event at ActivateMaine.com. Hey everybody, this is Jared. In today's activation education video, we're going to talk about congressional redistricting, what it is, why it happens, how it affects things, and why it's important in national politics. So have you ever wondered how congressional maps get drawn? Why does one town end up in the first congressional district in Maine, where another one next door is in the second, etc.? The reality is that these maps are redrawn from time to time by the legislators in each state. And where towns are on which map absolutely affects the outcome of the election. It can decide who wins. It can decide the percentage of party affiliation in each each district. So as you can imagine, there's going to be a big impact on the outcome of congressional elections, which in turn affects the balance of power in Congress and all around the country. And how these maps are drawn can protect democracy or they can completely undermine it. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of places. So all across America, politicians are drawing maps and they're trying to rig the game. They want safety. They want to make sure they're going to get reelected so they can change where the lines are on the map and ensure that they have enough support to stay getting reelected almost no matter what they do. When the maps are manipulated for this purpose, this is called gerrymandering. Both parties definitely have done it, and it's very unethical and it's very dangerous for democracy in the United States. Democrats have definitely gerrymandered, famously in places like Illinois, like in Maryland, but in recent years, Republicans have used it more aggressively. And much more strategically, especially after the 2010 census, which is when these redistricting plans tend to be enacted, is when the population adjustment for the census gets recorded. As you can imagine, like in Maine, we have 2 CDs, 2 congressional districts, and we try to keep half the population in each. So as population centers shift, the lines on the map are going to have to shift. The Republicans, after 2010, they literally created a national plan called Red Map. Tell me without telling me that you're trying to turn the country red, right? Have a name like Red Map, where their goal was A, win state legislatures, then B, gerrymander the districts so that congressional representatives can safely get reelected by red voters. And we're going to talk at the end of the video, like why that's so nefarious and why it's probably helped create half of the problem we have in Washington right now. Some of these districts got so out of control, some of these states got so out of control that parties would actually win like 48% of the vote across the state, but they would still control like 70% of the seats in the legislature. And that's just not democracy, right? In Maine, we actually do things very differently, which I was really happy to discover when I started doing my homework. Our process is laid out by statute and in the Maine Constitution. So our maps are redrawn once every 10 years after the U.S. Census, okay? And the map is proposed by a 15-member bipartisan commission. It has Republicans, it has Democrats, it has independents, and it has public officials. And these folks are going to sit down. They kind of figure out how to make the numbers work, like I said, so that maybe about half the people are in the first congressional district, half of them are in the second. And then they bring their proposal forward to the legislature, who then has to vote. And any new map has to pass both chambers of the legislature with a 2/3 majority. So you need a supermajority, which means you basically always need bipartisan support, both Republican and Democrat support. And if they can't agree, then the Maine Supreme Court steps in and gets to draw the map, which probably nobody in our legislature wants because the Supreme Court has no dog in the fight. They aren't going to look at party control at any level. So it behooves both parties to reach an agreement together. Okay, and this makes it one of the best systems in the country, and it works actually really well. And We can just look at the 2nd Congressional District to see that. It was last redrawn after 2020. The population in Maine had shifted more towards Portland, as you can imagine, which meant that the 2nd Congressional District actually would get bigger geographically speaking to create a balance. And one of the things they did was they moved Augusta, Waterville, some other parts of Kennebec County into CD2. And this actually brought more blue-leaning voters into the 2nd Congressional District, probably about 50,000 or so. And it explains partly why someone like Jared Golden was able to hang on in that district and win the last 2 elections in really close bids, right? But also, not only did Jared Golden win the 2nd CD, but Donald Trump has won the 2nd CD twice. So both times that he's run. So it's, I think, pretty solid proof that the plan works. You have a Republican president who's getting the majority of the vote in that district, but you also have a blue Democratic congressman who's winning those elections as well. So it shows that balance exists, which is what you want, I think, in a way. The danger, of course, and the problem for us here in Maine, even though we have a fair system, is what we see happening in these other states, like I mentioned, Georgia, Texas, Ohio. These people have built districts where, again, you can win your seat, you can win your congressional seat and have almost no danger of being unelected in a future election because 60, 70% of the voters are of your party. And that leads to things like congressmen who become entrenched and support policies that are not good for their state or the country as a whole, almost like in an allegiance move in a lot of cases to, a president who has his own agenda that could be despotic or undemocratic or not in alignment with the majority of voters in America, and they just support it and carry it forward because they have nothing to lose. So that's really the danger that is created when we have gerrymandering in our congressional districts. So coming back to Maine, the next redistricting will happen in this state, likely in 2031 after the next census. That means the legislators we elect in 26, 28 into 30, and the governor's races the next couple cycles are absolutely going to impact how those maps get drawn. So keep that in mind when you go into the next several years of election cycles. I really enjoyed learning about this stuff and making this video today, and I hope you learned something while you watched. If you have any questions about Maine or national politics or government, or you have an idea for a video, feel free to comment, and we'll see if we can get one up there for you. And I will see you all in the next clip. Have a great rest of your day.